There's a devastating truth that most people spend their entire lives avoiding. You have never actually met yourself, the person you think you are, the identity you've constructed through years of social interaction, the personality you present to the world and even to yourself in private moments. Schopenhauer would tell you that this is largely a fiction created by the constant influence of others' expectations, reactions, and the unconscious need to maintain social acceptability. Arthur Schopenhauer, perhaps history's most profound philosopher of solitude and human suffering, understood that authentic self-knowledge is impossible while you remain embedded in the web of social relationships, external obligations, and the constant noise of collective consciousness. He wrote, "A man can be himself only so long as he is alone, and if he does not love solitude, he will not love freedom, for it is only when he is alone that he is really free." Today, I want you to understand why Schopenhauer believed that complete solitude, not just occasional alone time, but genuine isolation from all social influence and external stimulation, is the only laboratory where your true self can finally emerge. This isn't about becoming antisocial or withdrawing from life permanently. It's about what Schopenhauer called the archaeology of the soul, the careful excavation of your authentic nature from beneath layers of social conditioning and unconscious adaptation. And before we explore Schopenhauer's revolutionary insights about why complete solitude is essential for self-knowledge, don't forget to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and leave a comment below. I want to know, when you're completely alone with no distractions, who do you discover yourself to be? Your honest reflection might reveal exactly what Schopenhauer was pointing toward. The first thing Schopenhauer understood about authentic self-knowledge is that it's impossible to discover who you really are while you're constantly reacting to, adapting to, and performing for other people. Every social interaction, no matter how brief or seemingly insignificant, influences how you think, feel, and behave in subtle ways that you're largely unconscious of. Schopenhauer observed that human beings are what he called social chameleons, unconsciously adapting their personality, opinions, emotions, and even their desires to match the energy and expectations of whoever they're with. This isn't conscious deception, it's what he called the tyranny of social influence, the way that other people's presence automatically triggers unconscious adaptations that move you away from your authentic nature. When you're with your family, you unconsciously become a version of yourself that fits their expectations and dynamics. When you're at work, you automatically adopt the personality that succeeds in that environment. When you're with friends, you adjust your behavior to maintain social harmony and acceptance. Even when you're with intimate partners, you're unconsciously performing aspects of yourself that you believe will maintain the relationship. Schopenhauer called this the prison of perpetual performance, the way that constant social interaction traps you in versions of yourself that may be socially successful, but are fundamentally inauthentic. You never get to discover who you would naturally be if you weren't constantly adapting to others' presence, expectations, and emotional energy. This is why Schopenhauer insisted that complete solitude, extended periods of time alone without any social input or influence, is essential for what he called the emergence of the original self. Only when you're completely alone, only when there's no one to perform for, adapt to, or react against, can your authentic nature finally surface. Number 1. Complete solitude reveals your authentic desires versus your conditioned wants. Schopenhauer understood that most people never discover what they actually want because their desires have been so thoroughly shaped by social influence, cultural conditioning, and the unconscious need to fit in, that they've lost touch with their original impulses and authentic preferences. In constant social interaction, your wants are continuously influenced by what others want, what others approve of, what others consider valuable or worthwhile. You might think you want a particular career because it impresses others, a certain lifestyle because it gains social status, specific relationships because they meet social expectations, without ever discovering what you would genuinely desire if social influence wasn't a factor. Complete solitude creates what Schopenhauer called the laboratory of pure desire, a space where you can finally distinguish between what you authentically want and what you've been conditioned to want. In extended isolation, away from all social input, your genuine preferences, authentic interests, and original impulses gradually emerge from beneath layers of social conditioning. You might discover that you're naturally drawn to creative activities that you've avoided because they seemed impractical. You might find that you're genuinely content with simplicity while you've been pursuing complexity to impress others. You might realize that your authentic desires are quite different from the goals you've been chasing to gain approval or status. This process of distinguishing authentic desire from conditioned want is crucial because, according to Schopenhauer, living according to conditioned desires rather than authentic ones is a primary source of human misery. When you're pursuing goals that aren't actually yours, when you're trying to satisfy wants that don't come from your genuine nature, you can achieve everything you think you want and still feel fundamentally empty and dissatisfied. Write in the comments now, "I seek my authentic desires." Say it like you're committing to discovering what you genuinely want rather than what you've been conditioned to pursue. Number 2, complete solitude dissolves the social persona and reveals the individual beneath. Schopenhauer observed that social interaction requires what he called the maintenance of persona, the constant energy expenditure involved in presenting an acceptable version of yourself to others. This persona isn't necessarily false, but it's incomplete because it emphasizes only those aspects of yourself that are socially appropriate while suppressing aspects that might be misunderstood, judged, or rejected. In complete solitude, this persona naturally dissolves because there's no social pressure to maintain it. Schopenhauer called this the relaxation into authenticity. The way that extended isolation allows all aspects of your personality to emerge and be expressed without the filtering mechanism of social acceptability. You might discover parts of yourself that you've kept hidden even from yourself because they didn't fit with how you wanted to be seen by others. Perhaps you're naturally more introverted than you've allowed yourself to be. Maybe you're more emotionally intense than you've permitted yourself to express. You might find that you're more philosophical, more artistic, more unconventional, or more spiritual than your social persona has allowed you to explore. This dissolution of persona doesn't mean becoming antisocial or inappropriate in social situations. It means developing such clear knowledge of your complete authentic self that you can consciously choose which aspects to emphasize in different social contexts, rather than unconsciously suppressing parts of yourself to maintain acceptability. Schopenhauer believed that this complete self-knowledge, this awareness of your full personality, including the parts that don't fit social expectations, is essential for what he called authentic existence, living as who you actually are, rather than as who others expect you to be. Number 3, complete solitude reveals your authentic relationship with suffering and joy. One of Schopenhauer's most profound insights was that authentic self-knowledge includes understanding your genuine relationship with both pleasure and pain, joy and suffering, without the distortion that comes from social expectations about how you should feel or react to different experiences. In social contexts, your emotional responses are heavily influenced by others' reactions and social norms about appropriate emotional expression. You might suppress sadness because it makes others uncomfortable, exaggerate happiness to maintain social energy, or modify your natural emotional responses to fit what's expected in different social situations. Complete solitude allows what Schopenhauer called emotional authenticity to emerge, your genuine, unfiltered relationship with the full spectrum of human experience. You can feel whatever arises naturally without immediately trying to modify it to fit social expectations or to manage others' comfort levels. This might reveal that you're naturally more melancholic than you've allowed yourself to be in social contexts. You might discover that you find genuine joy in simple experiences that others don't value. You might realize that your authentic emotional landscape is quite different from the emotional persona you've developed to fit in socially. Understanding your authentic emotional nature is crucial because, according to Schopenhauer, trying to feel differently than you naturally do creates what he called emotional exhaustion, the constant fatigue that comes from maintaining emotional expressions that don't match your genuine inner experience. Hit like if you're ready to discover your authentic emotional nature, and subscribe if you want more insights into Schopenhauer's philosophy of genuine self-knowledge. Number 4. Complete solitude reveals your natural rhythm and energy patterns. Schopenhauer understood that every individual has what he called constitutional patterns, natural rhythms of energy, attention, creativity, and rest that are unique to their particular nervous system and temperament. But in constant social interaction, these natural patterns get overridden by social schedules, external expectations, and the need to synchronize with others' rhythms. In complete solitude, your natural patterns gradually emerge. You might discover that you're naturally most creative at times, when social obligations usually demand your attention elsewhere. You might find that your authentic energy cycles don't match the conventional schedules that social and professional life requires. You might realize that your natural pace of life is quite different from the pace you've adopted to fit social expectations. This knowledge of your authentic rhythms is valuable because, according to Schopenhauer, living against your natural patterns creates what he called constitutional exhaustion, a deep fatigue that comes from constantly forcing yourself to operate in ways that don't align with your genuine nature. When you know your authentic patterns, you can make choices about when to adapt to social schedules when necessary and when to honor your natural rhythms when possible. You can structure your life in ways that work with your authentic nature rather than constantly fighting against it. Number 5. Complete solitude reveals your genuine philosophical and spiritual orientation. Schopenhauer believed that everyone has what he called constitutional wisdom, a natural philosophical orientation toward life that emerges when you're not influenced by others' beliefs, opinions, and spiritual perspectives. But this authentic worldview can only be discovered in isolation from all social and cultural influence. In constant social interaction, your philosophical and spiritual views are continuously shaped by others' perspectives, cultural trends, and the unconscious desire to fit in with whatever communities you're part of. You might adopt beliefs because they're socially acceptable, reject ideas because they're unpopular, or modify your worldview to maintain harmony with others, without ever discovering what you would naturally believe if social influence wasn't a factor. Complete solitude creates what Schopenhauer called the emergence of original thought, the space where your authentic philosophical understanding can develop without external influence. This might reveal that your genuine spiritual orientation is quite different from the religious or philosophical communities you've been part of. You might discover authentic questions and insights that you've never allowed yourself to explore because they didn't fit with social expectations. This development of authentic philosophical perspective is crucial because, according to Schopenhauer, living according to borrowed beliefs rather than genuine understanding creates what he called spiritual emptiness, the sense that your life lacks meaning because you're living according to others' truths rather than your own discoveries. Write in the comments, "I seek my authentic truth." Say it like you're committing to discovering your genuine philosophical understanding rather than accepting borrowed beliefs. But here's where Schopenhauer's insight becomes truly revolutionary. He understood that this process of self-discovery through complete solitude isn't just personally beneficial. It's necessary for what he called the individuation of consciousness, the development of genuine individual wisdom that can contribute something original to human understanding. Schopenhauer believed that most people never develop authentic individual perspective because they remain embedded in collective consciousness, unconsciously adopting the thoughts, feelings, beliefs, and values of their social environment, rather than developing their own genuine understanding through direct experience and. But when someone has the courage to seek complete solitude, to spend extended periods alone without any social input or influence, they can develop what Schopenhauer called original consciousness, awareness that comes from their own direct encounter with existence rather than from social conditioning or cultural inheritance. This original consciousness is valuable not just for the individual, but for humanity as a whole, because it represents genuine novelty, authentic insight that couldn't have emerged from collective consciousness. Schopenhauer believed that all authentic philosophy, art, spiritual insight, and social progress comes from individuals who had the courage to think and feel authentically, rather than just inheriting collective perspectives. And this is where Schopenhauer's philosophy becomes both a personal invitation and a cultural challenge. He's not just suggesting that you might benefit from more alone time. He's arguing that complete solitude is necessary for the development of authentic individual consciousness, and that authentic individual consciousness is necessary for genuine human progress. The person who discovers their true self in complete solitude doesn't just improve their own life. They become capable of contributing something genuinely original to human understanding. They become what Schopenhauer called a source rather than a reflection. Someone who can offer authentic insight rather than just sophisticated repetition of collective wisdom. But this process requires what Schopenhauer called the courage of complete aloneness, the willingness to spend significant periods in genuine isolation without any social input, external stimulation, or distraction from the process of self-discovery. This isn't the casual alone time that most people experience. It's the radical solitude that allows complete dissolution of social conditioning and the emergence of authentic individual nature. Most people, according to Schopenhauer, are too afraid of this depth of solitude because they're unconsciously terrified of discovering who they really are beneath all the social adaptation. They're afraid they might find emptiness, or that their authentic self might be unacceptable to others, or that genuine self-knowledge might require them to make fundamental changes in how they live. But Schopenhauer knew that this fear, while understandable, prevents the very self-knowledge that makes authentic existence possible. Without knowing who you really are, without distinguishing your genuine nature from your social conditioning, you remain what he called a stranger to yourself, living someone else's life while believing it's your own. So if you've been feeling disconnected from your authentic self, if you've been sensing that you're living according to others' expectations rather than your own genuine nature, if you've been wondering who you would be if you weren't constantly adapting to social influence, Schopenhauer would tell you that the answer can only be found in one place: complete solitude. Not the partial solitude of being alone while still consuming social media, reading others' ideas, or maintaining mental connection to social networks, but the radical solitude of genuine isolation from all external influence, the kind of aloneness that allows your authentic nature to emerge from beneath layers of unconscious adaptation and social conditioning. Learn to spend time in complete solitude without any external input or stimulation. Practice being alone with your own thoughts and feelings without immediately trying to understand or change them. Allow your authentic desires, emotions, rhythms, and perspectives to emerge naturally without judging them against social expectations. When you do this work, When you have the courage to seek your true self in complete solitude, you don't just discover who you really are, you become capable of living authentically rather than just performing acceptability. You develop what Schopenhauer called the sovereignty of individual consciousness, the ability to think, feel, and choose according to your genuine nature rather than according to social conditioning. Write in the comments now, "I seek complete solitude." Say it like you're making a commitment to the radical aloneness that Schopenhauer knew was necessary for authentic self-discovery. This is Arthur Schopenhauer's profound challenge to anyone seeking genuine self-knowledge. The understanding that you cannot know your true self while you remain embedded in social influence. That authentic individual consciousness can only emerge in complete solitude, and that this emergence is not just personally transformative but culturally essential. If this message resonates with you, if you're ready to seek the radical solitude that makes authentic self-knowledge possible, then you've found your community. Subscribe to join others who understand that knowing your true self requires the courage of complete aloneness, and that this courage is the foundation of all authentic existence. Because when you know your true self through complete solitude, you don't just change your own life, you become capable of contributing genuine originality to human understanding, offering insights that could only have emerged from authentic individual consciousness rather than collective conditioning. You become what Schopenhauer called a light unto yourself, someone who has found their own truth and can therefore illuminate possibilities for others seeking their authentic path.